Hi, this is Josh Ellsworth with Stahl's CAD-CUT Direct, and this is a tutorial on how to create animal prints for cutting out of heat transfer films and the designing of those prints in CorelDRAW. We did a video on the heat application of animal prints with our CAD-CUT heat transfer films a while back, and we've had a lot of questions on how to set up the artwork. So let's get started. We've started with by typing some basic text here in an impact font into CorelDRAW. After we typed the text, we simply converted it to curves. Most of you know how to get this far in the process. If not, you just type the text in, select the font, you go to Arrange, and click on Convert to Curves, which is grayed out since I've already done it. Basically, once you get your text on the screen to the font you want it in curves, and you have it to the size that you want, it's time to bring in our animal print or our vector pattern that we want to utilize. For that, I'll go to the File Import feature, and I've already created a zebra pattern, which I've exported out of the design software cadworkslive.com. And let me just drop that onto my screen. If I go to the View wireframe, you'll clearly see this is vector artwork that's ready to be cut. That's key to the process when you're picking or designing your patterns. After that, you want to place it over top of the text, keeping in mind that the stripe size, in this particular case of the zebra, you don't want it to be too thick per letter because you don't want it to be illegible, so you can't understand what text is there. So I'm going to position it over a small piece, and then I'm going to make a copy of it and use actually 2 of the zebra tile blocks to cover all of my text. After that happens, I'm going to select both of the zebra patterns by holding the Shift key on my keyboard, and I'm going to group them together, and then I'm going to move them out of the way for the moment. At this point, you want to take your original text and you want to create a contour or an outline to the outside of the text. In order to accomplish this, you go to Effects and click on Contour, and it will actually display in the right side of your Corel screen. In this case, I want to do a contour to the outside. Let's just make it 1/8 of an inch and click on Apply. After it creates the contour, I'm going to break those 2 layers apart. That way I'm able to separate out the pink text from the background black text. Just dropping the black text over to the side, and I'll work for a moment on my pink text. Before I go much further, I'm going to make a copy here of everything because I want to show you 2 examples. The first example that I'll show you is called the direct overlay method, where you're working with heat transfer films that can be layered, layer on layer without any problems. In order to execute that, all I'm going to do is drop that text once again underneath my print pattern, select both components, the print and the text, and then simply go up to my quick selection here and utilize the intersect command. Basically, it punches out the pattern from the 2 things that are overlaid, creating my AGHS zebra print pattern, which in turn can be dropped directly on top of my text. I'll just use my arrow keys on my keyboard to register it. And when I zoom in, obviously all this layout's going to happen in the heat application process, but if you wanted to see perfect alignment, you would just select both, go to Align and Distribute, and align them horizontally, and also align the centers vertically. And so you can see we're dealing with 2 cut pieces. Basically, send the black to the heat transfer film color of your choice and cut the full background, and then take the pink layer, the print pattern, and send it to the other heat transfer material of choice and combine them in the heat application process. If you wanted to do something like just cut out of one heat transfer film and have some garment show through, all you would do is send both layers just to a single color of heat transfer film. Of course, you'll need to take the weeding tool and pick out all the center pieces of the zebra print, but ultimately you would only utilize 1 color of material, reducing some of the material costs, but your labor costs will probably go up slightly, because if I change that color back, as you'll see if I drag it away, the weeding of the black layer will be very fast, and the weeding of the pink layer will be very fast because there's all these open areas. There's no start and stop with the weeding tool for pulling away. So if you want to go layer on layer, that's the best way to do it. The other thing that you may want to do is for materials like CAD-CUT Glitter Flake, which is one of our most popular materials for this particular animal print application. It's not recommended for layering, so you need to do what's called a trapping technique. So I'll follow the same steps. I overlay the print, the grouped print on top of my text, select them both, and click on the intersect option, creating my pattern. Let me move this stuff out of the way here. I won't need that again. Then, basically what I need to do is create that trap set of cut lines. So I'll zoom in here so we can get a good view. But the trap lines should be applied to my pattern. And it utilizes the same contour feature that we used earlier to do the two color. The only difference is I want my cut lines to come to the inside of the design. The particular offset that you program will depend on the overall size of your design. I'm going to start with 0.03 here because I want just a little overlap of the material so that it's a little easier and forgiving to register in heat application. But I don't want it so large where the top layer of film isn't getting the grip or the adherence to the actual garment fibers. So you just have to trust me on this one. I know it's tough to follow, but I'll apply the contour to the inside, and you can see how it brought a set of cut lines inside of the pink. Once again, I'm going to break this contour group apart so I can work with them individually, and then let me zoom out and show you how this works. I'm going to take the black cut lines, I'm going to drop it over top of my black text. I'll make them white so it's easier to visualize. Select both of them, and I'm going to do that same thing I did earlier with making sure everything is aligned. Go up to Arrange, Align and Distribute, and align them horizontally and vertically. And basically what I've created here is a cut file. I'll cut all of this out of, let's call it black glitter flake. After it's cut, I'll weed all the interior components out. When I heat press that to the garment, you need to visualize that the white showing on the screen is actually the garment showing through the black glitter flake, more or less exposing garment to the foreground that I'm getting ready to place over top. Now when I go and grab my foreground, and let's bring it over into the picture here and zoom in for a better look. Imagine the black's already applied down to the shirt. Now when I go to align my foreground, it's going to drop directly into here. Let me bring it to the front of the page so you can see this. But you can see when aligned properly, which I'll have to use the Align and Distribute command for. Align them horizontally and align them vertically. When you heat press that down, there's going to be a slight overlap. If I would zoom in here, you can't see the garment color showing through, but if I look at the cut lines, just keep your eye on this part of the design right here. Notice that the cut lines are going to be a slight overlap. So this was the cut line on the original black material. This area is the garment showing through, and the pink is this entire area that's going to overlap a little bit of the black glitter flake, but have the majority of it sticking and adhering to the garment. We call that the trap technique. So let's show you the view one more time. There's the normal view. There's the wireframe view. So you can see the pink fits perfectly on top of that particular design utilizing the trap technique. So depends on which way you want to do it. Obviously there's a lot more labor involved in the trap technique with the weeding time, but if you want that premium glitter on glitter result, that's the way to do it. If you want to go with something basic, just go with the basic heat transfer film for a background and overlay any special effect material or any other color of basic heat transfer film that you want. This will allow you to create literally thousands of animal print combinations with different colors for different skulls and ultimately grow your sales. This has been a tutorial from Stahl's CAD-CUT Direct. To purchase heat transfer films direct from the manufacturer, visit CADCUTdirect.com.